Welcome to CivilNet. My guest today is Ara Ghazarians, who is the curator of the Armenian Cultural Foundation in Arlington, Massachusetts. Ara, thank you for joining us on CivilNet.
You're welcome.
Ara, you started life out as a specialist in international relations. You graduated from Fletcher. You're at the Armenian Cultural Foundation, but most recently, you are responsible for a very interesting book called Azerbaijan and Aran. And you're both the translator, the annotator. Tell us why this book is important.
Well, as a student of international law and relations, I have always been interested in the sources of conflict on the international arena. And I have, during my research, I came across this book about 6 or 7 years ago and found many very interesting aspects about the history of the region. And since the book was not available in English and it contained a lot of information on the history, geography, cartography, ethnography, and history, and the archaeology of even the region, I decided to consider the translation of this project to make it available for the English reading audience.
The author is Enayatollah Reza.
Yes, Enayatollah Reza is an Iranian scholar, historian, a prominent historian of the late 20th century of Iran. And he has been involved in academic projects since late 60s. And this is one of his many books that he has written on the history of Iran. And also, of course, other books that he deals with the ancient history of Iran and the politics, and especially also the communist movements in Europe and Iran, and also, of course, in the Caucasus.
This is a fairly recent book.
Yes, the first edition came out in 1980, and there have been at least 8 editions that I'm aware of. It has been translated into Armenian and lately in Russian, and the English one just came out last May of this year.
So what's the thesis of the book? Azerbaijan, written by an Iranian. That means what aspect of Azerbaijan's existence, history, politics, ethnography is he really dealing with?
Well, the main focus of the book is on the use and abuse of the names Azerbaijan and Aran on 2 territories, that the 2 historic territories in the Caucasus and Iran. And of course, the author tries, based on tons of information, and of course, drawing from many sources, from Byzantine, Roman, Russian, Persian sources, to basically prove and show that how these names have been used and abused in history, where Azerbaijan is, where Aran is, and of course how the name of the Azerbaijan was picked by the founders of the present-day Republic of Azerbaijan in 1918 as the name of the republic, which has been kept since, of course, then in 1918, 1920 republic, and afterwards during the Soviet era, and of course after the collapse of the Soviet Union in the 3rd Azerbaijan Republic.
How does one abuse a term, a name of a country? What does use and abuse mean?
Well, it means that you adopt a name which doesn't belong to you or to your history or to your territory. And then the question comes why you picked that name and what were the motives behind that choice. And based on this study, of course, we see that this decision by the leaders, the founding fathers of the Azerbaijan Republic, was based on, motivated by ideological and political reasons, which has been continuing to this day.
Okay, and what is Aran?
Aran is the name of the ancient region or territory within the Caucasus, which also is called, of course, in English as Caucasian Albania. It's an ancient civilization which has been there since the dawn of, I would say, civilization back in the 3rd, 4th centuries of after Christ, and it has had a culture with its alphabet and literature, and then of course civilization, which to this day, of course, we have no more evidence and details as to what happened to the civilization. But the name that is used, I mean, was supposed possibly to be used by the Azerbaijan Republic when it became independent. Logically, it means that it seems that they should have probably picked the name Aran for their republic, whereas they decided to go with the name Azerbaijan.
Is there a short explanation for why?
I would say political motivations, probably historic ties and connections with their Turkish ethnic kins to the west, and of course after the Soviet Bolshevik Revolution, of course the founding fathers of both the republic and of course the Soviet Union thought that probably it would be best to have a name like this with probably some other motives for the down the road in the history to probably for the expansionistic policies of the Soviet Union, probably which we saw happening during the Second World War.
Okay, I'm confused. Azerbaijan, the republic today, has ties, claims ties with the northern Iranian province of Azerbaijan, and at the same time claims kinship with Turkey and Turkic peoples. Now, by choosing the name Azerbaijan, did it establish both of those linkages? Did it legitimize both of those linkages?
Well, there is one and only one Azerbaijan, and that's the northern province of Iran, present-day Iran, which has historically been part of Azerbaijan, a part of Iran. And the use of that name for the Republic of Azerbaijan basically shows some ulterior motives by the Republic of Azerbaijan to probably put some claims, as we see in some of the recent literature and the texts that come out of Azerbaijan, talking about southern and northern Azerbaijan in a way that as if the Azerbaijan has always been where it has been in the Caucasus, and then of course the southern part, which they claim as part of the northern Azerbaijan, has to probably someday be united with northern Azerbaijan. This is absolutely preposterous and bordering absurdity, of course.
And but the Turkic link?
Excuse me?
And the Turkic link?
That goes back to the pan-Turkist and pan-Turanistic movements in the early 20th century, where with the expansion of those ideologies in the Caucasus, with the hopes of linking the republics of or Turkish-speaking territories and regions of the Caucasus with the Turkey. And that link basically became strengthened as the Republic of Azerbaijan was born in 1918.
That's the part I don't understand. If they had called themselves the Republic of Aran, would those links have been any weaker?
Most probably yes, because by using that name Azerbaijan, they try to link the fact that Azerbaijan has always been Turkish. They come up with all kinds of distorted historical facts as to how and why the language, ethnicity, ethnography of the language, and of course the people has been used throughout the centuries, and how Azerbaijan has always been Turkish, and speaking Turkish, and of course there also comes the Muslim or Islamic factor also into the play.
The author, Enayatollah Reza, wrote this at a time when it was not yet the independent Republic of Azerbaijan, and this this last 20 years, 15 years of the Azerbaijani effort to redefine geography, history, maps, wasn't that pervasive yet. So what was the motivation then?
Well, he believed that because of passing of generations and all sorts of distorted studies and historical, so-called historic studies that are available to the public are not reflecting the historical truth. And his work basically is kind of a quest for historical truth and a crusade against historical distortions of historical facts. And he did this basically to educate the younger generations to know the historical facts as opposed to these distorted studies that were available in the market.
It's fascinating. Is there anything I should have asked you that I haven't asked you? That I could have asked you in 10 minutes?
No, I think you covered everything, but I think people by reading the book probably will appreciate the major contribution that Dr. Reza has made to the history of Iran and the region and the Caucasus. And of course, they would appreciate his immense academic integrity. And I think they will enjoy the book by getting most of the facts, which are all documented. And of course, by reading the book, they can probably also go to other studies by Dr. Reza and see what else he has, because he has another major study on the Iran, which covers then from the ancient periods to the modern era, until the invasion of the Mongols to the region. And then, of course, that will provide the readers who are interested in much more information on the topic.
Thank you, and thank you for your part in making this available to the non-Farsi reading world. Thank you, Ara Ghazarians, curator of the Armenian Cultural Foundation in Arlington, Massachusetts.
You're welcome.
And thank you for following us on CivilNet.